I haven't seen a lot of videos dealing with this Soldier X and the idea that preppers will be treated as terrorists come riots and civil unrest if Obama doesn't become president. Here's the thing about it. I'm going to discuss 3 points on this, which is highly important to bear in mind for anyone out there. Number one, alright, it doesn't matter whether or not you vote for Obama or Romney or Ron Paul or Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Bugs Bunny, any of those. It doesn't matter. The reason it doesn't matter is because your vote does not count. There's this thing called the Electoral College. Their vote counts. The Electoral College decides who's going to be president, not the voters. Sorry, that's the reality. Your vote doesn't count. It doesn't even matter if they commit fraud using the voting machines, because the voting machines don't matter. They don't count. It's just a way of making you feel like you've done something. And I've always had people tell me, especially family members, Ron, you don't vote, so you shouldn't bitch about who's going to be president or what the president does because you don't vote. And if you don't vote, you haven't done your part. Here's the thing about it. I joined the Army. I was infantry, 1st 503rd Air Assault, out of Camp Casey, Korea, in Tongdishong. I don't have a reason to bitch. I don't have a right to bitch. I don't vote. Tell me that when you pick up a fucking gun, when you go and enlist to go to basic training. Tell me that when they stop-loss you for 18 months, a month before you ETS. Now, granted, I only did 6 months of that 18 months, but I was still stop-loss to go to Iraq. And if it wouldn't have been for some stupid shit happening, I probably would have done every single bit of it instead of being sent up the brigade. But we're not going to get into my personal problems or my own personal issues with authority. Now, the other issue I want to talk about here is this. I've heard a lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter, Soldier X, who cares, nobody knows who this guy is, what he says doesn't matter, it's conspiracy theory, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's get to the conspiracy theory part. First of all, yes, it's conspiracy theory. It is an undetermined, unverified potential threat to your life and your safety as a prepper. Survivalist, however you want to think about it. To believe that you will be treated as a terrorist by the powers that be. Hey, guess what? I'm a veteran. I don't like the fact that the government says I'm a potential terrorist because I'm a veteran. More than likely, they're trying to push somebody to commit a terrorist act because, they want it to happen. They want to have that excuse. And if it's a veteran, all the better. Here's where it gets important, okay? Number one, violence isn't the answer. So we're going to swipe that off the table. Number two, it doesn't matter if it's a credible threat or not. If it's a possible threat, especially a possible overwhelming threat. Think about this. If you have a hurricane 10 times more powerful than Katrina headed your way, but there's a 50-50 chance it can hit you, do you say, well, it looks like it's going to be north of me, or south of me, or east or west, or however, it looks like it's going to miss me by 5 or 6 miles. I'm going to get rain, and there's going to be a lot of thunder and lightning, but hurricane ain't going to hit me. Or do you go out, fill up the car, maybe buy some extra food, get some blankets, candles, a few things you don't have handy or that you need to have handy, and do you sit home and say, well, if it doesn't happen, fine. If it's coming this way, fine. Either way, I'm going to board up my windows just in case and deal with it. Now, what this means is that the prepper community, or at least the ones who take this as a credible threat, you're preppers, so prepare. You know, your big thing is preparation, so you're going to have to prepare for this. You're going to have to prepare for that eventuality of having to literally bug out of your safe haven, your home. And you're going to determine fallback points, rally points for everyone to meet up at, security measures, challenge and password, a whole list of different shit. Just for this situation. Just in case it's true. This is where preparation meets opportunity equals success. If you're going to be treated as terrorists, you need to get the fuck out of Dodge. Because trust me, sitting around as a political prisoner for fucking 10, 15 years, spending the rest of your life in Guantanamo Bay, whatever, is not a good idea. And it's like this. This is me. Alright, I've been falsely imprisoned. I've had my name dragged through the mud and all this other bullshit. It's not a fun little game. If it comes to something like that, I'm not going to sit around and say, oh, okay, I'll let the system work. I'm gone. Fuck it. I'm already public enemy number one. They already, got me down that I'm going to be, taken out. I'm the big terrorist and the big boogeyman of society. I'm getting the fuck out of Dodge. Screw the bullshit. Y'all can pardon me, say I didn't do anything after all the smoke clears. In the meantime, I'm getting the hell away. If it doesn't happen, hey, I'll be somewhere else. I might even well be somebody else. This is where that video of mine about setting up your neighborhood intelligence network, having people around you in different neighborhoods, different streets, different areas around you, relaying information to you and being a node for that information, as well as giving them that trading, that back and forth of information. Now, bear in mind, this has to be credible information. It's not just, Bob's wife is cheating on him with the gardener. Let's discuss this type of shit and get in everybody's fucking business. It's credible, worrisome threats, problems you need to deal with, looters, whatever. And there's high-tech methods using CB radios and your own code words and everything else. And there's low-tech methods. So that's for the individual to research and work out on their own. The important thing is that if there's a potential threat to your safety, you need to prepare for it. Period. Done. End of story. It doesn't... I don't care if it's conspiracy theory. I don't care if it's Alex Jones, love him or hate him. What it is you need to be prepped and prepared to deal with the possibility. Now, maybe the hurricane doesn't hit. Then again, maybe it does and you have that complete shitstorm. Something to think about. The third element to this is that we already know there's potential for civil unrest, violence, everything else coming from this. If Obama doesn't become president, bullshit. Alright, now, this is where, honestly, the whole race discussion needs to essentially be brought up, but nobody wants to bring it up. So, I'm going to bring it up. Here's the deal. Alright? I don't give a flying fuck what skin color you are. If you were born in this country, you're an American. I don't give a flying fuck if your ancestors were slaves. No one's beating you with a whip, making you pick cotton. Shut the fuck up. Quit bitching. Do something with your life. I'm of Irish descent. My ancestors were brought over here as slaves from the British. Well, I'm sorry, they called them indentured servants. Still the same thing, basically slavery. And guess what? I'm white. My ancestors were white. It's a fucked up situation, but that's reality. That time is gone. I don't hold any animosity to any of my British friends because, you know, my ancestors were brought over as indentured servants for their ancestors or some other bullshit. All that stuff, all that race baiting and everything else, all it does is keep us divided. It keeps Americans divided. It is retarded. It is childish. It is grow the fuck up and be a man and stop bitching. Drop your fucking testicles. You're an adult now. That simple. If someone doesn't like you because of your skin color, who gives a fuck? You're here to live your life, to enjoy your life if you can, not to make other people happy. Fuck them. Basically it. Look, here's the thing about it, right? My grandfather was an old racist white guy. His best friend in the whole world was our neighbor, who was an old racist black guy. The conversations they had would make some liberal, politically correct, fucking be nice to everyone type of person cringe. You would think these men were insulting each other because they were throwing every racial slur I have ever learned in my life back and forth at each other, and neither one of them got mad. It was simply the way it was. You're not going to undo hundreds of years of ideology in one video. This video isn't going to change anything, but it might open up one person's eyes, and if it does, that's enough. Here's the reality of the situation. The war between the North and the South was not over slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation was not passed until a year after the Civil War was already ran through. It was propaganda. It was a way of taking black soldiers out of the ranks of the Confederate Army. And unlike the Union Army, the Confederate Army did not segregate their soldiers. You had white, lower enlisted soldiers answering to black NCOs in the Confederate Army. You had black officers in the Confederate Army issuing orders to white and black soldiers. Now, granted, the largest majority, and I think there was only like maybe 2 or 3 at most black officers in the Confederate Army. The reason for this was because most of the rich people were white, most of the highly educated people were white, and most officers went to West Point. So there was an issue. There were a few cases of field commands and field promotions and stuff of that nature. But what it essentially boils down to, believe it or not, is that the Union Army creates this crock of bullshit telling the blacks in the North, the South hates you because you should be slaves, and they think that you should be slaves, and they think this about you, and they hate you for this reason. And they did this and this and this and all this other bullshit. They give you all these excuses and every racial stereotype you've ever heard about these racist people from the South that we've ever lived our lives hearing. They fed them that garbage. Then they put them in charge of the South, of cities and towns in the South when it was under martial law after the Union had gone in and liberated the town. The Emancipation Proclamation only freed slaves in the South. Tennessee, which also I should point out is where the KKK came from, originally was invented in Tennessee, was allowed to keep their slaves. The indentured servants of the Union were permitted to stay indentured servants because they weren't slaves but indentured servants for the Union, which meant the North got to keep their slaves. The South didn't. Nobody ever goes into these things because this is real history. If you think I'm lying, look it the fuck up. At the time of the Civil War, 90% of the slave owners were former slaves themselves. 90% of them were black. They don't tell you that in the history books. The other 94, and only 6% of the South was who owned slaves. So what was the other 94 fighting for? Because of the Morrison tariff. Well, anyways, it was a tariff that increases the taxes on the South on bringing imports to the South, because the South was bringing in machinery that was made cheaper overseas for the purpose of not needing slaves. And, you know, if you look at history, every dominating culture has dominated another culture. Every kingdom, every nation, from as far back as the Stone Age, the Bronze Age. You know, the Romans conquered other nations so that they would have slaves to go build their roads and aqueducts and everything. The Greeks the same way. The Persians the same way. The Egyptians the same way. The African nations, the powerful African nations that were the precursors for the Egyptian nations, the Sumerians, the Mesopotamians, all of them would go out and conquer others, even down to the small tribes in Africa and America. Native American tribes would go out and conquer other tribes to take prisoners, and they would be essentially slaves. That was the industry of the of ancient human civilization, where humans were assholes. It's that simple. You know, grow the fuck up, get over it, get a life. You know, sitting around bitching about things that happened to your ancestors is nothing more than fucking fuck you over from what you can do now to make your life better. Once we get past that and we realize what's going on, you actually start looking at the laws, the regulations, the shit that's coming through. It doesn't matter if the president's black, white, or whatever. You have to realize the powers that be, the government, the bureaucracy. As far as they're concerned, most of us are fucking cattle anyway. And as long as they keep us divided against each other, they have a means to control, manipulate us, and in fact enslave us here without having to put shackles on our fucking hands and feet. Just a little something to think about.